more defined on the objective itself.
I think AYB could serve themselves a little bit better just by slowing things down. How is Tiger just, like, always finding himself in a fight? I think Tiger could honestly avoid doing that, and AYB would be much better off. Put Ulfrin on the roam. Put Vapor on the roam. Put Choco on the roam. All of them can carry themselves. So far, Tiger is just getting unlucky, and Textrolo is having a much better game than we saw last time. He's 7-2, and for the sake of the Zoe, she started off well when we were looking back on Clubhouse, but it was that consistency for Textrolo that just wasn't met, and I think that was the largest issue. That PG Tips did not have an entry that they could, like, lean back on and count on to be constantly in the midst, winning those initial gunfights, and really that's what you need here.
Certainly so. So if we get into this round, it's going to be a very important one. We've seen AYB struggle on this site so far. This is their third time of asking, and they haven't been successful at all so far. The push is primarily coming towards Master Bedroom as of right now, and if they can identify this, perhaps they can isolate them off and cause some chaos, but it looks like they're very much aware and alert that there could be that potential run out. They've seen it already, they were able to counter it, but will they be able, or will it be there again? I doubt that's going to even be a factor. Ace is trying to make his entry, and looks like Vapor on that Valkyrie perhaps might be thinking about something more aggressive. Frenzy is there to do the verticality to give the Ace an opportunity to get this hatch open, or this wall open, and Spark and slobs off 2 salvo charges, and it's now been achieved. The C4 is sent in to try and deny the Ace's position, but guess what? It's just going to be too short, and he's going to be outside on that balcony still. Choco looks to be aggressive with his Kector in hand, and he has that yellow ping for information, but Vapor tries to get aggressive on the same run out once more, and Textrolo was there on the watch, reading into it absolutely perfectly, and he's going to be off the board. Sparkins finds himself reduced to under half HP as Choco trades off lots of damage towards him, relocates inside of Trophy, and he's not going to be able to find the player. Frenzy boosted up on that bed, and takes Goyo's head off his shoulders.
Another difficult recovery in the cards for AYB if they are to win round number 5. Already lost Vapor. He tried the same thing that we had seen previously from Tiger, and surprise, surprise, it didn't work. Frenzy will get one onto Ulfrin. Luckily, Sparkins, a hot hand with the AK-12, has been eliminated, but Tiger, that's not a fight you're going to win against the M762 on a long window rappel angle. No surprise for PG Tips to win that round, and AYB are off the rails a little bit here on Oregon and need to return to a little bit more sensible play. The aggressive behavior is being completely read into by PG Tips and is resulting in rounds where we're seeing 5v3s from the get-go.
AYB need to find a way to just stop the hemorrhage of player count so early in the round. And I think we mentioned that you in particular, play less aggressive, play more defined towards that objective, pull everything back a little bit. You know the push is super focused from the side of PG Tips. They're not really going for a clear unless you present them an obvious roam presence like we witnessed when Ulfrim got stuck in kitchen. If you just pull yourself back, bunker up on the objective a little bit more, you might be able to find more success because that man disadvantage you carry so early in a round, well, on a map like Oregon, that can make the difference. And you gotta feel for AYB, the momentum, the class they showed in Clubhouse, but again, they perhaps just aren't able to replicate that same level of play here in Oregon, and perhaps PG's map choice could go in their favor.
It just feels like AYB are not operating at their full capacity here. The adaptation has got to come through, and it seems like one element that just hasn't come through from Clubhouse onto this map. PG Tips, their strategy, you can see what's going on here. They're winning their opening duels, and AYB are not able to remain in enough control of the map to prevent PG Tips from just moving through. How many rounds have we seen end by simple elimination rather than leveraging the plant? PG Tips, look at the objective counter. They haven't gotten the case down in a single round so far for the 5 we've seen, going into number 6. And I think that spells a little bit of miscalculation for AYB because you don't have to peek. You do not have to peek. Just fall back. Sometimes not taking a gunfight is more advantageous than getting yourself killed.
Could not agree more. Wise words of wisdom. Just don't peek when you don't need to. formulate and have expertly planned out aggression, not aggression for the sake of it. As the verticality comes in to try and clear away utility, it gives lots of options for trying to clear up this wall. And the presence inside of Shower is an important hold. It looks like Vapor's going to try and challenge Rep here. And I don't think that would be a very wise engagement. Rep, though, is going to get himself lit up from below. And this is a very tricky fight for all parties involved. And this is a nasty angle in the Shower. Uses Torch to open up a small position. And that applies an uncomfortable amount of pressure to Yuri, who has that Goyo shield for protection deep by tower wall. And Impact ready to deny any Selma charges placed on that wall. Choco gets stuck in that air jab and the window player by Bus of Instinct. Well, you're not going to lose that one, especially when an immobilized Choco is just ahead of you. And he's going to get that kill for essentially free, holding that rotation inside of Showers, locking Yuri in place. Okay, so I've refreshed now, and I'm back in the fight. Looks like we just had some Vimic desynchronization. Tiger gets the kill on the Sparkins there. He's going to find a second on the Rep, battling back for his team, and Textral, the last man standing deep in the objective with the AR in hand. What work can he do in a 1 versus 3? Not a lot when Malusi walks down that corner. The HNK MP5 sings sweet, and Textralo falls.
Finally, a round closed out after a little bit of a losing streak began to build there for AYB. They'll go even at the end of the half, and what I said earlier was AYB cannot afford to lose more than 3 rounds at this first half. Well, they achieved that margin now as they pick up the defense. Hopefully that'll give them enough leverage to close this one out. It's anyone's game, I would say, from this point on, depending on if AYB can show us and kind of eliminate a little bit more in terms of some of those microcosm issues that have so far prevailed. And I'm hoping to see a little bit more of a heightened level of coordination, because that's been absent in some of these rounds. There's not a whole lot of times where we're seeing AYB members play off of each other and hold crossfires, prepare for the eventuality of the trade game, and going on to the attack, that will matter so much more now, especially if we see Textralo continue to be very petulant on his realm. If he's causing problems, if he's distracting you, you have to shut him down quickly, or at least set yourself up to go 1-for-1 on it.
Getting those trades all important. So the side swaps occurred now. Round 7, at least in my eyes, I find this to be one of the most interesting ones. When teams transition from attack to defense, defense to attack, a style of play change can often occur in the map's flow, and the flow of a map can very much drastically change depending on how it's getting set up. It looks like we're going to be in store for a very similar lineup of operators and strategies deployed. Those Banshees close on that Hunter's door is going to make a nightmarish experience for anyone trying to make an entryway. And it looks like Kai is going to put his electric claw in the finest bedside locker he can find to make it even harder to clear that utility off a wall. And this is the type of creativity I love to see from electric claws. You know, earlier in the regular season of ECS, we saw a team vaulting out of gamer window, putting an air jab on the outside wall, vaulting back in classroom, and just leaving it there. And it worked to a surprising degree of success, because no one could actually imagine it would be an electric claw outside.
I said a couple of cheeky interpretations of those, and we actually moved by a little bit of a different one there, but it's par for the course. Frenzy, he'll manage to tag up the backside of Ulfrin as he dodges out of the window. Frenzy being careful to spray through the wall to prevent Vapor from readying up and swinging the corner to catch on that opportunity. The uncertainty of the Jaeger, always something you have to worry about. Textralo, very agile in his control of the map as he dodges and weaves through areas that AYB have not yet seized under their auspices. Vapor will go below. He's looking for that Electro Claw and the Nitro. Too slow in the detonation there. Vapor could have easily had his life stolen away if Instinct was maybe 1 second closer. We'll have the opening created, the vertical angle to watch deep by the laundry staircase. However, no members of PG Tips lurking in that area specifically. No opening death so far. Would chalk that up to almost a success for AYB. They haven't opened themselves up to the many roaming members of PG Tips, and so for better or for worse, they're in fighting form. The big question is, are they going to be able to take confident control of Attic, or is Instinct going to be too much of a problem? It seems like we could have our answer coming soon. Tiger, DBNO, and Frenzy coming soon on the flank to try and cause more of an issue. The Melusi will be a power player. Air jab in position. It's cleared. The Nitro sent flying out. It's in the midst of them. Tiger goes down, but Yuri, he'll still hang on as Frenzy manages to get away.
Downed by a C4, revived and snuffed out by a second. He's going to be eating lots of that utility, but as time drains away, the advantage sits now at PG Tips. Can Vapor try and cause some heroics here deep by Hunter's Lounge? Looks for the opening as Yuri gets one of his own, and Instinct falls, but that smoke canister can surely choke out this push. Sparkins finds himself receiving some damage, and Ulfrin battling away by this double window, but we see his red silhouette up by Small Tower. He can make an aggressive jump out and snuff out this push altogether. 30 seconds now remain, and pressure begins to grow as Choco falls to Frenzy. The advantage now grows and grows to the side of PG Tips as Frenzy goes down to the basement, and verticality is achieved by Textrolo. The help deny anyone vaulting in. Vapor gets one, Ulfrin gets traded off, and now the 2 versus 3. Vapor and Yuri go, and Vapor falls. Yuri gets that trade, but with 10 seconds remaining, this plant is going to be in a dire attempt to recover this round. Will he be able to get into a post-plant situation? I believe he will. As we hit 000, the low HP in the Area X with low ammo count. He's going to get a fadeaway. He's going to be sneaking down the kitchen. But again, that diffuser very exposed, and it's going to get stuck right now by Frenzy. Does he have any clue? I don't believe he does. Oh, he sees the head, but the ARX, no! The ammunition in the chamber, just not enough. And round 7 goes in favor of the defense of PG Tips.
If he had one more bullet in the ARX, he might have won that. I see no better reason why you should bring the AK, but, you know, beyond me, he almost had that. I have to give credit to Yuri. He made the right decision to bail out and drop the hatch, but there just wasn't enough time left, and oh my, if you go down to the millisecond there, when he had pulled out the pistol and he was on target, it was dangerously close there, Whip It.
It truly was. Oh man, I thought when I saw the head of that Melusi just appear, I thought Yuri, he's going to be able to find one and force it in that 1v1, but no. That forced animation, here's the breach lock up in his ARX. And you knew that round was lost. Shut down as PG Tips now claim a 4-3 advantage, moving into their basement hold. They wield that smoke, a default strategy deployed, and AYB need to break down this strategy. They need to find something on their offensive side, and I think the story of this is going to be keeping themselves alive into the mid-round, finding the opening kill, which they were so effective on in Clubhouse. They're struggling with it here on Oregon. They need to get that mojo, that gear back kicked in, otherwise PG Tips might be able to run away with it.
One important statistic that CCV had brought up in the post-map discussion for Clubhouse was the fact that in their attacks, AYB had a 100% opening kill rate through their split. So far, much different story on Oregon, where Textrolo, Instinct, and Frenzy have been leading the way and have consistently been able to deny AYB. It doesn't look like AYB are as comfortable. I think that's largely what goes down here. They're not getting comfortable, and they're not, moving closer towards it. Frenzy with the late reinforcement of the Attic hatch. He was nearly exposed out of Vapor, but a lack of intel inside of Attic. He'll go to play the bullet angle. This could be a huge play for Frenzy if AYB are a little bit too haphazard. If they don't go for the full drone, the Melusi, she might be able to get a few more picks than they are anticipating.
Lucy can be very potent here. Not known. Well, there you go. You mentioned she could get one at least and finds it. Looks for 2 and gets it. Yuri's next to go. Pistol and a whole Frenzy goes absolutely insane. Finds 3 biblical plays inside of Attic. And AYB find themselves already in a very compromised position. PG Tips sitting pretty. And all they must do now is burn down this timer. And they surely find themselves on that 5-3 advantage. 2 versus 4. However, it's not over till the Fat Lady sings. Can anyone on the side of AYB find some heroics to close up this deficit and possibly get a foothold in this round? Facing up against Instincts next. That Alda, a super potent weapon when given the choice. It gets 1. Can it sing for 2? Yes, it does. And PG Tips claim round number 8 in a very emphatic fashion.
Well, PT Tips seem to have come into an element of their own. I mean, what is going on here? AYB are getting slaughtered off of one missed drone. The Melusi not only finds the first jumping up on the table, she finds two more. I'm out of words. She had no bullets in the primary, and the pistol came out, and it still worked. And I think that's down to AYB, who are not playing at the same height. And this is certainly PG Tips map now. We know why they picked it, and that momentum, I think it's all gone for AYB Esports, and it's not really giving them enough of a leg up. Maybe they were trying to bank off of it and hold it for as long as they can, but it seems to be mostly gone. And so we kind of reset ourselves, or maybe even swap a little bit further into the favor of PG Tips, who sit at 5-3 on the doorstep of match point. With one more round, they're going to guarantee that at least we'll see the full 12 rounds and into the depth of overtime. If they don't close it out beyond regulation, Consulate could be on the horizon here in this best of 3.
That would be an interesting sight to see. Consulate being the decider for 2 best of 3 series in a row here on ECS. But can AYB rally the troops and find something, dig deep, and be able to get themselves a successful series of rounds to get this game either tied up or get themselves back in that advantageous position? We go downstairs. The kitchen and dining is a site that's very difficult to break down, especially if verticality is employed in a very strong fashion. And it looks like due to that frenzy, that Melusi upstairs once again, those banshees are set up to really slow any entries down to clear him out. And I think he's going to have a buddy playing by white stairs to act as a crossfire, and it looks like that's going to be Rep. The role of that Valkyrie to give that extra information and cover their teammate as entries to small tower begin. And Yuri might be upping that position inside of that bus to hold rotations inside of showers, but doesn't look like he's doing it just quite yet. As the entryway begins, Ulfrin gets control of small tower, and the verticality can now be opened up.
For AYB, I think the biggest thing that they need in this round is to be assertive. They need to let PG Tips know that their map control is not to be trifled with, and that, you know, as much as they try, they're not going to have enough to be able to overcome them. We'll see the Maverick used to open up this wall, making sure that there are no games of impact tricking to prevent the hard breaching process. Curious smoke canister, I think, tossed in to try and waste the ADS's Textralo. He'll be in a bit of a pinch. Vapor moves on through, control of showers, but the Maestro, he'll hold the line. He picks it for a second. Instinct going absolutely crazy, and Rep will find Chaco. AYB in another round of 2v4 where they cannot get anything on the round. Only Textralo, he's the top frag, but PG Tips have got many men stepping up to the front line in this endeavor. Wolfren, he'll try to sneak on through, crouch walk, sneaky as you can. Rounding the corner, Instinct does not watch the rotate, but Rep prone at the bottom of the white stairs provides enough coverage to give Instinct the confidence. He knows the camera's up. They're going to have plenty of intel, and so for Ulfren, he's not only going to have to best the Valkyrie, who's going to have the positional advantage, and I don't think Ulfren's really going to be prepared for that. Here we go. Yuri, he'll round the corner. The Alda, you're not going to beat it, and another one for the Maestro. A quad kill for Instinct.
Insane plays there. You go against the Maestro, you're gonna feel the pain of the Alda. Trade puts him in DBNO, but guess what? It's not enough to shut down the Italian operator. Symphony of Pain gets one more salvo, and 4 kills, as you mentioned, puts PG Tips on match point. They're going to be able to tie up this series. They're only 1 round away, and Dorms will be the site of choice. Can they close this matchup out, or this map out right here, right now? Only time can tell, but AYB, a fall from grace compared to their performance on Clubhouse. What can they do? Can they do anything at all to recover this and stop the bleeding? Otherwise, map 3 is very much looming on the horizon.
Consulate will be inevitable without an immediate recovery. AYB would need minimum 3 rounds in a row before they're out of the danger zone, but even then, that would just be overtime. And with the way that PG Tips played across both sides of the field, I have a whole lot of confidence in them moving forward, and perhaps we were a bit too early to call this one in favor of AYB Esports. A massive recovery. PG Tips, they're fragging, their positioning is good, and one thing that we haven't always seen across both of these teams, The positions in that last round were perfect. The Maestro, he wasn't worried about different angles. He knew what his teammates had covered, and he had faith in them to provide him the safety that he needed to focus on all necessary angles, swinging the Nomad, instantly whipping around to face the Ashes. He tried to do what Ashes do best, but it didn't work, and PG Tips are on quite a roll here. You're talking about players like Rep, Instinct, Textrolo, Frenzy. All of them are playing at their height. AYB, you just can't say that thing.
Oh, this is the deep order right now for them. They have their backs well and truly up against the wall. Can they find anything at all to battle against what seems like a tidal wave of pressure from the side of PG Tips? Frenzy looks to be aggressive again, and we've seen when given him the opportunity to be aggressive, he can make good of his offers. He sees the player in towards Garage, and some shots whiz past his head, but he's not going to be deterred by that. He's going to look to be aggressive still and exist just in this 90 corridor. If he can persist here and burn away that clock, mission complete for him as Vapor taps away, but Frenzy decides he's going to relocate as Ulfrin finds himself receiving some damage from that Kaid up above. The Electric Claw not yet to be cleared, and can he find it at all? He's looking desperately to locate it, but I think it's going to be placed inside a master bedroom. Rep can just send more shots down range and suppress that Astra now. And that timer is going to be the ultimate threat to AYB's chances of getting a round back for the good here as we hit that 1 minute 40 mark, and they haven't made a lot of progression at all.
Certainly not, and the pressure, it's really grinding to a halt. Ulfrin continues to play this tango with Rep. Neither player able to come out on top, and so for the benefit of PG Tips, this will go. The fact that Rep has managed to secure this wall is crucial for AYB. They don't have any cross pressure coming south and north. They have a singular doorway. Well, PG Tips are going to be in perfect coverage of that. If AYB can't take control of Attic, this might be a round done for and a map over with. Textralo, he's lurking below. Luckily for Yuri, they've got the air jabs, but what we saw in the past was that not always the most important thing to watch for. And with a blink of an eye and an air jab shot out, there could be another hero play coming from T1. Z-pings go forward. AYB will cross the threshold. Sound cue is heard. Instinct will find the first. The headshot onto Thiger, but Ulfrin in the hour of need shuts down the smoke. Textrolo still trying to thread the needle, but he just can't spot him. Continues to try and go for it, but Yuri dodging back and forth. Shots will return. AYB have control of Attic with 30 seconds to go, and Yuri, another huge important frag. Crossing the breach, another one. Oh, they don't even know Rep is here. Two players line up. Vapor will gun down the Cade. Textrolo full HP for the plant. Going up the stairs, so tense in this moment. Vapor has got to have the coverage. The Jaeger for his pre-fire. The 416 does not connect onto the Zofia, and Textralo into the post plant.
38 seconds until we hit critical, and Textrolo looks to find two. A tricky fight in the premise, but the player on that window presents the biggest challenge for cover shots, just whizzing past his forehead, but it looks like this is going to be a foregone conclusion. The body prone dropped inside a Kid's dorms now. A tricky push for Textrolo. Will he read into it? He does! Choco falls, and now the diffuser in a great position for him. The stick. Vapor left in a very compromising position. He's got to get aggressive. Rotates via Attic. Textrolo's going to come over. Oh my! You've got to win that, Vapor! Textrolo brings us all the way to map 3! What a performance from him as PG Tips claim Oregon 7-3 victory!
I don't believe my eyes! The Jaeger, he made it happen in the 1-on-2, and it looked so good for AYB. They had the reverse rappel. They had the player hiding tuck in the corner, but that's all gun skill and game sense for Textrolo to win those fights. And knowing that he had to make the decision, stick it or swing off, risk getting denied by the lifeline, Textrolo, he made the right decision, and it pays huge. A 7-2 might have been a rocketing start for AYB on Clubhouse, but man, PG Tips, they swing right back.
Launching their very own counterattack, a devastating right hook lands, and now we find ourselves in round number 3, map number 3, a shootout for progression. Remember, the loser of this series will be leaving our playoff phase. So this is for all the marbles. Consulate yet again will be our decider. We saw it yesterday where we took all 15 rounds to bring our series to a close. Hopefully we don't have to do as much of a graveyard shift this evening, but it looks like these teams are very much willing to put up a fight. CC, our wonderful desk host, bring you on in. We can get some more analytics before we throw to our break.
What? That's my reaction. I am genuinely stumped. Looking at the final few rounds, not just the final round itself. I mean, that was an entire play in itself. But the build up that it had with all these previous 4K squad kills and everything building up by the players of PG Tips. I mean, it was the conclusion that everyone was waiting for. This final clutch from Trextrolo was I don't know, kind of like Avengers Endgame, I suppose, or whatever. It's just this massive conclusion, insane, just coming down with the hammer and disabling the diffuser. But you know what? Okay, all jokes aside, let's go over what happened on Oregon, because it was, in contrast, very different to what we had expected and to what we had witnessed on Clubhouse. This was an entirely different story. So, after Clubhouse ended, Whippet, both of us were having the conversation about kills and how AYB, they always have this plan B of just entering an objective and getting kills, just shooting defenders left, right, and center, and then from then on, they can either just win the entire round based on kills, or they can play an afterplan situation and they can still win that regardless. But in this case, on Oregon, we saw the entire opposite of that. We saw PG Tips being on the forefront. We saw them, opting for kills, just aggressive plays from the Melusi, from Trex on the Jaeger last in the final round, even though it was a post-plant. So now the tables have entirely turned, and heading into Consulate, the question has to be asked that which exact team is going to be on the forefront of their attack when it comes to aggression and kills? Is it going to be AYB bringing what they had from Clubhouse, or with the newly gained momentum of PG Tips, can they garner it and can they flourish it on Consulate as well?
It's a tough riddle to think about right now, because again, it looked like AYB brought a level of aggression and confidence in after their victory on Clubhouse, but very, very quickly we saw that it wasn't going to be an easy matchup, and PG Tips absolutely kind of proved themselves. We brought Oregon out for a reason. We're strong here, and AYB couldn't really find a solution. That they brought a level of aggression we saw with those runouts, but every single time they tried to play aggressive, they got shut down very quickly. A map like Consulate, it's linear in the idea, it's repel heavy, it can very much come down to individual mechanics, similar to how Oregon can play out in those dying few seconds. It'll be a tricky one. I think this is going to be really down to who's going to have the most stuff prepared for this map in particular. And again, with it being an unfavorable map for many teams, you got to look at this as an interesting matchup, how it's going to shape up. And for right now, I think I'm going to throw my prediction away, and I'm going to sit at this as a completely neutral bystander. I don't know who's going to be able to take this series now.
Right, and Stick, talking a bit on the strategical side of things, and again, we have to talk about the contrast from Clubhouse to Oregon. And there was one specific point you made, I forgot which round number it was, but it was the meeting in kitchen defense for the side of PG Tips, that they had the Maestro 4K, it seemed, and you mentioned an excellent point of Maestro being aware of all the angles his team was holding, and just entirely reading their opponent like a book, essentially. So comparing that to the total heavy plays that, or even the semi-roam plays that PG Tips were trying during Clubhouse, and essentially failing as well during Clubhouse. During a lot of the times when the actual execute was going on from their attackers, they weren't able to hold it back, they weren't able to reply, and they just completely crashed down. The entire defense just faltered. Other than that, on Oregon, we saw a lot of success. So are there any other elements that you saw that contributed to this success, apart from just kills and being aware of the entire situation regarding the attackers and defenders alive?
I think this idea has kind of been evident for PG Tips on both maps, in that they wanted to play crossfires and trust their teammates. It didn't work on Clubhouse, and then it felt like they kind of just stopped doing it, because why are you keep playing the strategy if it's not going to work out? I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. Consulate, I think, has opportunities for duo play when you're looking at kind of how you're going to hold back pressure coming in from administration offices, but it also has some of these common positions where you have to be strong as an individual. When you're looking at CEO holds playing inside of the staircase on yellow stairs, but also you have to be able to coordinate with utility, with intel. When we're looking at split, I think there's opportunities for the strong fragging play, but also the coordination that we've seen across both teams. And that's why I have to stand with Whippet here in saying that I don't know who's going to win. I don't know if it's going to be the Oregon momentum that carries PG tips across the line, or if maybe this is the playoff map that we're seeing being brought in here by AYB and that they feel comfortable on. I would certainly hope that both teams are prepared for it, because this is going to be a real nasty map.
It certainly will be. It will be nasty. And talking about Consulate, we'll be heading into Consulate, but before that, we'll be heading into a short break. So stay tuned, keep watching. We'll be right back, and then we'll see once and for all which team wins and moves ahead. The first two maps have been played. Now it's time for the decider on Conslet. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Elite Championship Series. This is the first match of the Stage 2 playoffs between AYB Esports and PG Tips. Now I'm CCV, and let's introduce back our casters, Whippet and Stick, and let's have a conversation with them so far how this entire best of 3 has taken place, has progressed, because it's been a wild journey. Wouldn't you agree, Whippet?
It has been absolutely insane. We've witnessed such a explosive display from AYB on Clubhouse. They played so well, a 7-2 victory, and then all of a sudden the tones darkened. It was a very different outcome when we went to Oregon. AYB's aggression that found them so successful on Clubhouse began to fall away. It got read into absolutely perfectly by PG Tips. And when PG Tips finally got their claws in the round or into the map, they just did not let go, and they were able to close out a 7-3 victory and a very, very clutch play by Textrolo in that 1-versus-2 post plant to get us here to map number 3. And then, speaking of that, map number 3 now, Conslet. This is an absolute black sheep of a map. I do not know where we're going to, how it's going to work out. This is going to be insane.
I think, in general, looking at Clubhouse and Oregon so far, they've been, to an extent, against the norm. On Clubhouse, more specifically, we saw AYB just absolutely thrashing their opponents while they were attacking. And again, this is brought up multiple times over the course of, in multiple broadcasts, that, in Clubhouse does have the tendency to be a little defender-sided, but then AYB came with this 5-1. Now you look at Oregon, you have this entirely opposite result, wherein PG Tips, after the 3-3 initial split, when they started defending, they didn't drop a single round. They made it to the 7-3, and they finished the map with a victory without a single round loss in their defense. Considering all of these factors, Stick, just like Whippet said, and Conslet can surely be a black sheep. But you were talking a bit about the specific maps, about the key choke points that either defenders or attackers may need control of. Places such as yellow stairs, places such as admin stairs, or even the major bomb sites themselves. So looking at that, what exactly do you think the playstyle of these teams is going to be? And will they prefer more roaming or total setups?
It's hard to really predict that outright. I think we've seen kind of a mix of both. I would sort of say that AYB are kind of more favor close setups. Kind of like, close to home, maybe a little bit, sort of an extension, not really like a lurk or a full roam, compared to PG Tips who love their roam. I mean, Textrolo is just running around the map like a bat out of hell, and he's winning all his gunfights, especially on Oregon. So I think he'll be definitely stationed to more of a roam presence. One thing that I think is definitely going to pitch in here, and Whippet sort of mentioned this with the preparation, I think the team that's more experienced, that's got more scrims on the book with their full 5-man roster, is probably going to do a lot better on this map.
Certainly. So, these teams, we talked about before the game started about the new player Sparkins coming into PG Tips, and he is playing the support, and he's doing it quite well, whether it's using his utility, keeping map control, keeping the bomb site control in his favor, and not letting the opposition take it. Regardless of whatever he's doing a good job, one can surely say. So I think, like both of you said, it's going to come down to the team experience as well. More so, it's going to come down to Conslet experience, but this is where before we shifted it into the break, both of you mentioned that you're completely neutral on predictions. You don't know which team is going to win. That is not allowed. No, I cannot allow that. No. See, the predictions are there because you have to side with the team even if you are wrong in the end. So I have to ask you, it is my duty, Whippet. Starting with you, who do you think is going to win? Even if it is a flip of a coin, just answer.
Right. It's not quite a coin flip, but I'm going to say this. If AYB can get Vapor to stop trolling, I think they're going to be a success. I think they could get a victory off on this one. So, again, I'm going to put my faith in them. They were so strong on Clubhouse. I think they have great potential. They can piece things together well. Just they need to find some way to deal with, not playing as aggressive, because that punished them when we went to Oregon.
All right, and Stick, you agreed with Whippet's choice in the previous map as well on Oregon. Both of you sided with AYB back then. It didn't end quite well. Let's remember how the result happened on Oregon. Oh yes, AYB lost. But yeah, in this case, Stick, do you also think that AYB will win? Or do you think with the newly found momentum of PG Tips that they can garner a win for themselves and just win the best of three in general?
I think AYB demonstrated a lot of good discipline on Clubhouse, which I would say is a little bit of a more simpler map compared to the strategic depth that goes down on Oregon. With that in mind, I think Consulate sits as sort of a middle ground between these two. You have to be confident in your teammates on the rappels. You need to work together. You have to coordinate. If you get disjointed, if you don't work together, you're going to lose. What AYB demonstrated on Oregon is that they have a tendency, sometimes when they get caught up in the difficulties of a map, to fall away from that heightened level of coordination and discipline. I think that could be a problem here on Consulate. It's for that reason that I vote PG Tips.
Ooh, okay. All right, all right. So, difference in predictions here. I'm not going to make a prediction because you know what? I'm going to stay neutral. I'm not a caster. But yeah, speaking of casters, I'll hand it over to the both of you. I'll meet you after the games. So we've got, yet again, we've got confirmation that the players are almost ready. Just a few minutes right before we head into Consulate. So again, both of you take it away and we'll meet you after the game.
Certainly looking forward to this matchup. Now, we had a few technical issues, so don't worry, Grissom. I'll send you a lend of a spare RAM stick I've got. We'll get you through this, don't worry. We'll make sure your computer doesn't completely melt to the core of the earth until we get through the end of this broadcast. But I'm looking forward to this one. Constant, yet again. Second time in 2 days. It's been, yes, okay, he's very thankful. I'll send it first class. You'll have it for tomorrow. It'll be grand. But again, Consulate map best of three decider yet again. We saw it yesterday. Yesterday took 15 rounds to get this map wrapped up. I don't think we're going to see all 15 required this matchup. Again, we're both of you predicting different teams to come for an outcome. This is very interesting. It's very tight between these teams, and I think we won't really have a full picture of it until we get to see the strategies getting played. And when we start to see these teams meet each other head on, lock horns, we'll get an idea of what strat book is deeper, or who stole the biggest Google Drive.
All right, I appreciate the mention there. As far as AYB, they'll pick up the first attack on Consulate, and I think that's really going to be where we decide this one. If AYB can't get around the horn and coordinate themselves on attack, I don't think the defense is going to look much better. So if AYB, I think if they take 3-3 or 4-2, I think they're looking good, and I think maybe I'll be a little bit more confident in them. But if the momentum that is built up for PG Tips continues to boil over here to Consulate, I think there could be a few problems on the horizon. As we can see there at the start of the day, PG Tips were in the disadvantage. Didn't seem like as many people in the community predicted them, and that reigned true on Clubhouse. Not so much for Oregon. Let's dive into the bans here on Consulate to figure out where this best of three is going.
These bans can be very, very decisive, and a Nomad first to go. This makes a lot of sense. They want to play with the flexibility and aggression that a Nomad ban gives you. Those air jabs can choke out aggression and rotates from the side of the defense, so getting her gone now involves you not having to deal with those air jabs later. Thatcher, again, is going to be a pretty standard ban. The EMP so wide varying in the amount of utility they can disrupt and disable. Getting them off the board now makes more sense. Defensive ban wise, it's an interesting phase. Information, I think, is going to be the key of this, and I think with either team, a Valkyrie is going to be one of the operators to go.
Pulse is quite a curious ban. We see a little bit of use of the cardiac sensors, so I'm not totally surprised by that, but it's the ban of the Pulse that really strikes me as odd here. We won't have the Iana ban, which was an impact on Oregon. I don't think we got much time to take a deeper look at, and there's the Valkyrie you had predicted. Her black eye cameras are simply too much to deal with, but that sort of promotes a question here. We saw a lot, and I mean a lot, of Valkyrie being played on Oregon. Now that she's gone, the aggressive plays, the runouts are limited. When we see AYB get over on the defense, I'm hoping that they play a little bit less in terms of the aggression. Play smart, play simple. Don't complicate things. Don't add any extra nonsense. Just play default, play and adapt to the team you're playing against on the fly with the hope that that lends you a little bit better in terms of the split. For the first attack, already a little bit of spice. There's the Iana.
They love running the Dutch operator, and I think, Vapor was very keen on running your last time out on our very first map, and now he's going to be on that Zofia as Tiger picks up that Iana. going away from that line makes sense, but Instinct grabbing that mirror, an operator that you don't see a whole lot of, especially on this map. And I imagine as we're going down to the basement, we might see an extension of the mirror window inside of bathroom to make that clear of the piano a little bit more difficult, or they could just be committed to holding in security. And Instinct, unsure of where he wants to put this reinforcement down initially, but I think, you know, he's took a glance to his second monitor, read the Google Doc, and he's found the correct wall as we get throughout this prep phase. Otherwise, operator lineups look pretty good or pretty default. And again, the mirror is the only real thing that stands out. That Maestro running those evil eyes in standardized positions, but he can just sit behind that white van, and he can be an absolute nightmare to get rid of and displace.
Wonder what kind of take AYB are going to go for. You have Jaeger in play. No Mute, no Mozzie, and no Vigil, so I wouldn't expect totally a full run, but perhaps Frenzy is going to be that off-site player we see station. I think Textrolo might have prepped the suicide windows to go for a potential jump out from Projector. Immediately the cam is broken, he'll go for a pre-fire near the police line spawn. The window has been prepped, there's an opportunity there if the window repel is sensed. In fact, AYB with the sledge, Yuri already getting in position, as well supported by Ulfrin. It seems we'll have that admin take in play, but Textrolo, he's going to try to contest this, force back the pressure. If he gets support from Frenzy, we might see a situation where AYB Esports are not able to take control of the top floor, but that won't be prevented for much longer. Manpower on the second floor of Consulate, moving forward, drones at the ready. AYB securing all the intel, everything that they need to know should be good to go as far as what we have here to show for you. Frenzy was nearby at yellow, but he's fallen off. So far, Textrolo already having vacated the top floor. PG Tips giving it up. AYB making good time.
A great entry so far, very proficient in clearing this top floor, but they're still cautiously looking out for anyone who could be roaming. They see that Banshee up there, and that could be the first red flag indicator. There could be some presence, but I don't think there is. No red silhouettes anywhere in the vicinity, so they're clear to make their entry down by that yellow stairs. It looks like they're still very cautious, however, and I think this is a wise level of skepticism as they begin to push down, not wanting to risk any lives too early in this round. And again, very different from what we saw inside of AYB earlier on Oregon. They were very aggressive and overly so, and well, Frenzy finds the opening kill. Choco off the board, and that's going to be waving goodbye to your Hard Breacher of Ace. And it was the only Hard Breacher available, so now a push from that garage wall, that's no longer available to them at all. They're going to be forced to funnel in through the staircases and doorways as Frenzy finds his Secco on his Vapors next to fall. And this is already beginning to unravel from the side of AYB.
First sound of the war drums beginning to beat for PG Tips, who stand far ahead, and that's not stopping anytime soon. Textrolo playing below the stairs in Harry Potter. Ulfrin waiting at bottom. Visa, he'll swing the angle and wins that fight. Immediately he reacts, swimming around or switching around to watch deeper inside of the cafeteria. He'll have to link up with Yuri. 2v4. We've seen this situation come through in many rounds for AYB, but an important start this certainly would be if they can secure the clutch. Echoes of Clubhouse. Sparkins holds the deep angle. The Alda, it rips apart Ulfrin, and now just Yuri. He'll have to back off. 30 seconds. No frag grenades to disrupt the Maestro, and it's Sparkins from Pipes who gets the final blow. A headshot for the SMG-11. PG Tips sound off with the first win. A defense success on the bottom floor site.
Brutally efficient defense established there from PG Tips, and AYB seemingly just don't have an answer to Frenzy's aggression. Throwing your mind back to Oregon, where he was able to find a three-piece from Attic when he was left undetected. If you give him a chance, an inch, he will take a mile, and so far, he's been the kryptonite, the absolute lockpick to AYB. Every time he's shown up, the push has begun to falter, and right now, that's going to be a priority. Shut him down, or at least be more confident in your ones. And it does seem to be a problematic situation. Instinct, once again, grabbing that mirror windows. And, I mean, looking at this, they're going to be sticking to Two Doors' favorite Spaniard. I'm going to be able to bring that wall of information those windows can provide.
Trying to stay composed here as the live chat flies on by. We've got quite the selection of images to take a look at. Split sight coming on through, and the Mozzie introduced for PG Tips. One thing I have to give credit for in the previous round was the way the PG Tips fell off. They knew that giving up control of the top floor rather than dying and, having the second floor be their graveyard was of more value. A concept that both of these teams have in some rounds struggled to grasp. That type of play is so helpful on Consulate. You waste time upstairs. You force AYB to confront your extension and then chase you down, which can spend most of the round enveloped in that process. It didn't look like AYB ever got solid control or footing over by the west side. I honestly don't know if they managed to get the main garage wall open. Wasn't a whole lot of pressure coming in from the yellow staircase, and so a little bit more of a risky start. But the ban of the pulse means that playing for split, playing for the nitro to disable the plant is not going to be so easy. You'll be more reliant on your Maestro Evil Eyes, as well as any adjacent angles that you can get via using the mirror windows.
Entries into admin begin, and Vapor yet to find himself on the scoreboard. But again, he's a very potent player if he can get himself warmed up. And while I give him a hard time on the desk, that's only because, you know, well, I guess I don't know why, to be honest. At this point, just because I know I'm outside or inside of the game, I can give him that extra bit of slack. But that's going to be an aggressive peak, and Choco once again falls so early. And losing your hard breach in rounds like this is absolutely the most detrimental feeling in the world. And that's going to leave that diffuser alone and ice there just below those CO windows, and that's going to force that recovery operation. This is finding it to be a very tricky position for this, and again, you've got to look at AYB. Is this entry going to be strong enough for them right now? They're going to be relying on just solid entries, and that's going to be a C4 tossed up. And that Yana left in DB. 1 minute 40 remains as Vapor finds himself an engagement reduced to half HP. The revive occurs, and now Yana stuck on 20, but still enough to do some damage to give him the chance. Rep looks to try to take a fight down towards Statue, but Vapor is going to creep on down Banana. He might be able to get in here a little bit uncompromised, but no. Textroller reads into a perfectly Ulfrin's there in the immediate trade, where a swing happens by instinct. That Hector sings, and down he falls. And a minute 20 left on the board, and at 4 versus 2.
Round after round, AYB face losses and aren't able to wrench it back via securing the trades. Thiger, low HP, but look at the defuse. It's at the bottom of the staircase here, and there's no way that they can really confidently recover this. With Thiger gunning down Sparkins, that makes this a little bit easier. You remove the Melusi, you have the Bandit gone now too, so it's a 2 versus 3. That's not the end of the world, but Frenzy's on the Alda. We've already seen what it can do, and the good use of the Replicator. They're running ahead, forcing the defense to play a little bit further back. With the case recovered, Yuri can start to fall off, but now the Sledge is alone in the world, without support from his teammate, and Rep isn't looking to be cleared really quickly. Go for a few spam shots, the Sledge occupied with the existence of Mozzie, but he's not going to give him the fight. He's going to continue to waste time, and so Yuri has to make the decision, plant or chase the frag. But planting is going to get him killed either way. He'll drop the hatch, sensing the vulnerability of this moment, and quite a potato inside of Trick. It'll be Instinct who gets the final kill there. PG tips for 2 in a row, starting to look like a bit of a rocky start.
It does seem to be, and looking already from the strategies deployed, the confidence to take Archives Teller's very second sight. This shows to me that TG Tips have got a little bit of a folder built up around Consulate, and that could be very difficult if AYB have no answers for it. As we continue to see these rounds begin to play out, adjustments must be made, and I wonder if that pulse ban was to try and counter out any verticality that could have occurred on the Archives Teller's hold that AYB may have brought out. But as we see round number 3 occur, as Lobby and Press will be our side of choice, it looks like more verticality in store. Is that Vigil getting brought out by Rep, who can just strap that Wi-Fi router to his back, turn it on, and no drones will be able to spot him for a brief period of time. That can make him a difficult member of the team. The Y-split cut off and be able to kill out in that position, and that's just going to burn away time, and that's going to be the key to success for PG Tips on this side.
So I wonder if Rep is going to play like a second floor roam and try to burn time. That would be my idea, but I think what's more interesting to watch and will tell us about how this is going to be played is whether he sits in like admin or if his roam is more stationed around sort of the west side here, because we all know the value of the vertical play inside Projector. It stops the plant from happening, and it lets AYB know that they're going to have to attack this in a different way. Instinct has got the shotgun holes. Rep will rotate around, and Textralo is going to play the, I guess you would call this the ADS trick. We didn't see this a whole lot after the recent nerf, but we don't see a whole lot of Consulate periods, so perhaps that's just par for the course. With ADS's inside here, he could be able to outlast the utility burn, I haven't actually been able to even see if he has ADSs in here yet. But if he does, that's just going to be one more thing that AYB has to struggle with. And to be honest with you, Whippet, I'm not sure here on Consulate if they have the coordination to be able to get over that hill.
Oh, it does look like that might be the case here. I'm really hoping, fingers crossed, that AYB can find that momentum, find that ability to fight through this rough patch on Consulate, but they haven't seemingly even had any answer for the puzzles brought out. And I often refer to Siege as it's a very high-level problem-solving game with dire in-server consequences, and I'm not ripping off a Joe Rogan quote when I say that, but it's very much about solving every single puzzle that the defense brings. And AYB are trying to brute force their way through with gunfights and mechanics and that aggression we saw on Clubhouse. And they're not going to get any success now as the more reserved hold is brought out by PG Tips. For Frenzy, nothing reserved about his playstyle so far. Finding himself another kill and now leading the charge for his team. 3 kills to no deaths from him, unanswered in gunfights. And he continues on this trend. He will be a nightmare, a demon for his roster. Can he find even more? Thinks about the run up by the main door, but opts to keep himself in check for now and does so successfully. It's a long fun fight, but that's going to be the kill confirmed. The repel occurs as Choco's going to attempt the plant. C4 tossed out. It's going to be overthrown. No, it's not, as he's going to get his third, and now it's all down to Wolferin. And Frenzy finds his quad kill, number 4 in the round, and a flawless one at that, as PG Tips finds 3 rounds in a row.
Ooh, this one is really starting to go a little bit downhill, I would say, so far for Consulate, but it's not over just yet. AYB, seeing how all of these sites have played, can make a few adaptations. For Cafeteria and Garage, I think more of a focus on Main Breach could be more helpful. I don't think AYB should continue to play for frags. I think more structured play is what's going to get them the wins here, not challenging PG Tips, because we look at Clubhouse first in this analysis. Clubhouse was won because AYB were winning their gunfights, but overall it was because they were coordinated and they were forcing PG Tips into those fights. On Oregon, it was almost the exact opposite. It was really PG Tips using that to their advantage, and even beyond, more so, PG Tips were successful when they played the aggressive on-the-fly style of Siege. For Consulate so far, trying to play the playstyle of PG Tips from the point of view of AYB, it's not getting them anywhere. It's gotten them 3 losses, 3 difficult losses, one of which being a flawless round, the other 2 2v4 scenarios where there was never any solid grasp surrounding the on-site pressure for AYB, and I think that's the largest contributor here inside of Consulate, and it could lead to 0-4.
I think you might be onto something here. I just think PG Tips have brought a level of play and depth in this map setup that AYB just haven't encountered in either a long time or they're being blindsided by. And their entries are something I really want to show. I believe that AYB are now completely successful on their entries. We're getting, I believe, 100% success rate on their opening kill. And if they can continue that rate, especially on the defense, when it gives you upward of a 60% increase of winning that round, it's going to be a very difficult one for AYB. But entries occur, as that's going to be Ulfrin leading the charge to get through to Coffin. Vapor's vaulting in, and that's going to be an opening kill there for Rep falling. And Vapor's going to find some damage on his own teammate, but by Visa Stairs, Textrolo gets one. Ulfrin, a trade-off occurs, and now at a 4 versus 4. It was looking like a great start for AYB, but that trade-off in player count isn't ideal. The player inside of bathroom has been detected. Now Frenzy's going to get himself slain out by the G36C at the hands of Yana. Now the advantage sits with AYB, but what can they do? Can they fully capitalize upon it? 2 minutes remain on the clock. Will PG Tips be able to counter and resolve this issue, or will this be finally AYB getting themselves on the scoreboard?
It's that transition into the mid round that needs to be here for AYB. Fortunately, Ulfrin got a little bit too aggressive in his swing around the corner, but luckily, the trade was there and Frenzy overstayed his welcome on the second floor. With the Maestro gone, you can't reorient the Evil Eyes, so they're still going to be in use before getting cleared by the soft destruction, of which there is increasingly less of. Textralo and Sparkins form a strong element to kind of play around the side and flex a little bit off, and then you've got Instinct, who's going to be primarily sitting behind all of the mirror windows. Main Breach has been open. I think AYB's best plan here, if they can secure control of Garage, would be to try and go for a front of white plant. But now with Yuri gone, the man advantage is no more so. they lose that crucial use, and they cannot apply pressure in more than really 3 angles. The problem here is at a 3v3, if you're going to go for a plant, technically things move down a little bit less, so you don't have as many guns in the fight, and with the sledge gone, you can't carefully cover all of the angles. I think the one saving grace here, 2 smoke canisters in pocket for Sparkins, but no nitro in the pocket of Instinct.
Choco opting to stick this plant. Will he be able to do so? The smokes are great for cover. Instinct fancying himself a smoke criminal, but no! Shut down the cover from Yellow Stairs. A great read through that smoke. And now in a post-plant situation, a 2 versus 3. Make that a 2 versus 3 versus 1 as Vapor gets one of the Sparkings. It's all down. Textrolo, surely he won't be able to find Heroics again, but Vapor falls to the hands of the Carbon. And oh! Tiger's next to go as well! He's got 24 seconds until we hit critical. Choco in a great position to cover this plant. Will Textrolo be able to pull out Magic once again? He taps away, and he's going to be able to go for that long arm. He might be able to get it all the way, but no! Choco, just in the clinch of time, gets himself that kill, and Textrolo falls. I, for a minute there, thought we were in store for yet another Textrolo Heroics on that counter defuse, but no. AYB make good of the post plant, and they get it done. 1 round on the board. Can they use that as a catalyst to build up and get some more? Only time can tell, but round 5, we go back down the split side. Archives and Tellers.
I would certainly hope that that's the sort of resumption point that they can use to start getting going here in terms of the momentum on Consulate. Split was very awkward attack last time. I think that's the perfect way to describe it. AYB, for no reason, tried to challenge down the main staircase. It was an unsupported play, one that clearly was what I would call divided. It seemed like some players were still focused on trying to get everything set up to go for like an A-side plant, but all of a sudden there was just 2 players who worked down main, and I get, there's this idea that you want to be that hero player that gets the frag or gets the area map control that helps your team move across the line, and at that point it was 0-2, and so AYB definitely needed something there, but I don't think I've said this so many times, I must sound like a broken record. I don't think it's the hero plays in the frag, the rank style, the monkey style, that's gonna get you the win on Consulate here. I think it's gonna be working together with your team, because that was AYB's biggest strength in this series, their ability to coordinate and to go for a multi-pronged execute, like some of the split takes we had on Clubhouse. For Oregon, it was mostly absent, and only just now with that basement attack have we started to trend a little bit closer back towards it.
This is a very treacherous set of rounds for AYB right now. They've got the 1 back in the bank, but if they can't hold on to that advantage, that little bit of momentum, you've got to be concerned about the rest of this. Could that have only been a flurry, a flick of the wind to be able to get that round, as PG Tips finally kill it yet again early, as Ulfrin falls at the hands of that deadly Nokia brick below. And that's not the start you want. Of course, AYB not being successful in these entries at all, suffering greatly because of it. And PG Tips once again give themselves this great advantage. Tiger trying to creep down the stairs inside of Visa office, but he knows the verticality is played all downstairs, and he has to clear that. And it's going to be a very tricky fight, especially with Textrolo holding his position. A single pixel exposed will be enough for that Malusi to find a C4 who was pre-placed up for the distance, detonated, but to no avail. This is going to be a high-pressure round as they begin to try and clear utility away, but every bit of resources committed down below, and it looks like Rep could even try to retake Yellow Stairs to apply direct pressure to this admin hold, as well as Visa, as Vapor tries to give himself a best advantage, removing Banshees from play, and that default camera persisting. That's not ideal, and looks for more verticality to try and make anyone downstairs in Tellers and Archives that little bit more awkward.
The focus for now in AYB to try and unsettle some of the defenders hiding inside of Archives. Vapor teases it right at the fringe, looking through the sight holes, but not risking leaving the defuse out in the open. Choco gets cut down, the Maestro playing excellently. Frenzy is going to stall this round out a little bit later. Rep still lying prone. He's wondering about what could come from the main stairs, but Textrolo swinging over from benches gets Choco. 3 versus 4. Thiger gets a good one there below onto Frenzy, and the plant should be done. Vapor will get it down. Rep still linger over here by Statue. Vapor, he's blown to smithereens. Thiger sent DBNO, whether they know it or not, and Yuri embattled here inside the copy room. He'll try to play the angles above, but being occupied, there's not a chance in the world that he's going to be able to fight the player up here as well as watch the diffuser both at the same time. Will creep around. Spots one. They nearly line up, but no, there's Rep. They'll get the one that starts it and the one that ends it all for PG Tips, who now go 4-1. Better get to that defuse in time.
Plenty of time to get that confirmed, but an absolutely brilliant performance. They got very aggressive on the visas, as you mentioned, nearly lining up for that sledge, but almost channeling their inner Latin America there just to get hyper aggressive and throw so many bodies at the line that he can't possibly kill you all, and that's going to be a great counter defuse, a great retake. Another round in the good for PG Tips. AYB, you've got to stop the bleeding now. Throw on that tourniquet. Try your best to limp yourself over the line for this opening split, because you don't want to go 5-1 down. Round number 6, all important now. AYB, if you've got something left to give, you've got to find that energy now, because it's your final gasp of attempt here in the offensive split. We go downstairs to the basement, and a Capcan being picked out by Instinct, but I think he was an AFK choice, or just time-based alone. Likely going to see him 6-picking away from that Spetsnaz operator. No! Confirming it, so he has very much intentions of using those EEDs to try and slow down this entry, and, well, they can be a nuisance if you don't spot them out early, especially when you're trying to make that last cascade into the objective. So keep an eye on that kill feed for that one. So go all the way down to the basement. A Legion combination, a Capcan as well. It's not going to be a pleasant entry experience for AYB.
I would have figured if you're going to bring the Capcan, you probably would have, like, 6-picked into it. I'm not sure why the opportunity was not there. Maybe it's just, like, luck of the draw. Like, okay, you know, I got random pick Capcan, so let's just go with it. Let's just go with the flow. Or, I don't know, there could be any level of psychological tricks going on here with Instinct's pick. But as Vapor manages to dip and dodge around at the spiral staircase, they'll be aware about the Capcan's presence, but that's not always the be-all end-all. Just knowing that there's a Capcan is not enough. You have to make sure that you're constantly in check and that you watch for all of the EDD traps, because it's when you're totally focused on the execute, for example, that you least expect it, and that the Capcan traps can be at their highest level of effectiveness. For the basement hold, so far, PG Tips have been successful in rounds where they've secured the opening pick, which has been, I think, 4 out of the 5 that we've had yet. Ulfrin, though, in the last time we went to the basement, gunned down Rep, who was roaming as Maestro, which really caused a problem. Oh, my word. Rep just swings out. He gets Ulfrin, but Lee Steiger is there.
That's a massive blow again. Early losing players in the very opening seconds. This time they were able to get a trade off at least, but still, the opening kill, as I keep sounding like a broken record, can give the defense up to a 60% chance of winning that round. And well, there's the EDs. Oh, you've got to feel for him there. Reduced to 20 HP. And if he takes one more misguided step, that's him sent back to the observation tool screen. And he's not going to want that one bit.
Poor Theiger there, trying to shoot the cam through the table. But with Theiger on low HP already, that's kind of a problem. You have to be so careful for those Capcan traps. I wish we had like a tool that would show us where all of them are, so that we could kind of like predict them. I think that would be helpful. So you could kind of figure it out ahead of time as far as AYB. But the surprise is certainly there. Nitro sent sky high. Does not manage to successfully land on the Vapor, who's still occupied with opening the vertical play to look down inside of Sandwich. Theiger will make use of the replicator. Not sure how successful that'll be or what use it shall provide. Another Nitro is sent up. In fact, the full bounty of explosive utility for PG Tips has now been expended. Vapor will find Instinct. Theiger with another good one. He gets Textralo through the floor. AYB have regained the man advantage, and by quite some margin. Only Sparkins and Frenzy left alive in the fight. No utility left to support them, but with Frenzy on the flank, he could sure make a disturbance. He'll get inside of Zulu. He spots one, shoots him in the back. Theiger goes down, rotating around now to the circle desk. He's looking to cause even more so of an issue. Sparkins defending the site. It's Vapor. Yuri gone too. All of a sudden, AYB's man advantage has completely turned to ashes in their mouth, and it's just Chaco, spotted out, pestered by gas, slowed by Malusi Banshees against 2 defenders who are stalwart as ever. As he peeks in, he'll tag up Sparkins, not able to confirm the kill. The smoke going prone, but still being challenged. It's Frenzy who defends his teammate. PG Tips, Frenzy, and the smoke in the 2-on-4 clutch. They'll go 5-1 for the first half.
An absolutely superb display on their opening split in the defense, and man of the hour, Frenzy yet again, showing up big when it counts. Found 3 on that round, and a very important 3 kills he was able to find, clawing that advantage back in favor of his team. And ultimately, I think he has to take full credit for that round. He really took the initiative and took the gunfights required to break down AYB, and they were left in ruins after that one. As they move to the defensive split now, round 7, Cafeteria's choice, Basement's the choice. Mirrors in play yet again. They're opting to copy Cap strategy. Perhaps his instinct grabs that Capitao. First time we've seen the Brazilian operator in play this evening. What influence will his crossbow of asphyxiating bolts and smoke grenades have in this? Only time can tell. Prep phase begins, and I'm very intrigued. How will the mirror windows be used in this engagement?
And I wonder what the conjunction for AYB is going to be here with bringing the Melusi, not the Melusi, the Alibi. An operator, I think this is the first time that we've had her played through the 2 maps so far. Alibi doesn't get played a lot on a map like Oregon or Clubhouse, but she sees a little bit more playtime on Consulate specifically because of the entire storyline about, your progression on this map. We've seen a lot of rounds that are determined by the success of the attack, especially for Garage. If they move in successfully and without trouble to take control of the top floor, generally that means that they're going to be much better off once they actually get to pushing down towards the site and making efforts to open up the vertical play. I think Alibi could be helpful there to try and delay the process a little bit. Ulfrin, though. Ulfrin has to step up for his team. He's been consistently getting cut down on the opening deaths for his team and has not had a great performance so far in these 3 maps. For him to be playing Ash and Jaeger, I need to see a little bit more.
It's a rough position to find yourself in. I think he's definitely dedicated himself to that role, but he's just not had any success at all. And again, you say he's been getting cut down so early in these rounds, and if he can find an influence on this Jaeger role, perhaps it could be worth keeping on it, but only time can tell. The commitment to the mirror windows upstairs, I do like this strategy. It gives a bit of a hold and makes that verticality a very difficult task to achieve, and again, allows that to be played by the defensive AYB. Choco in a great position to get that all to sing for him. He just has to find some pixels displaced out in the wind, and that's going to be textural with a Claymore. Finding Ulfrin, and again, the man that we were mentioning needs to come up big for his team. They're cleaned up early by that placed bit of utility. Frenzy sends a breaching charge deep in the objective to clear away utility, but now tensions begin to rise. The advantage sits to the offense. Utility not being baited out yet, and if the push comes early enough, these smoke canisters might be null and void just due to the time alone. We hear the Aldo from the distance in the hands of Choco, reading off some shots, perhaps just the level of intimidation and warning, but this truly is a tentative moment for AYB.
The shield here is about to be Vapor's biggest strength, to be able to fend off the Whitehall push, and rather side white push, and protect himself behind the van. Vapor will go active, peeking with the SMG-11 at range. Not sure if I would totally advise that play and that choice of weaponry. Good thing for AYB is they feel no pressure on Piano and have the vertical play, but an expert frag grenade uproots Vapor and steals out his life, deepening PG Tip's control of the man advantage, but the angles being held upstairs are going to be the largest thing to watch for. If they're unsuccessful, there could be a real problem, but here goes Textralo moving in from antechamber. He guns down Thiger, but still Yuri, he's fending things off, and all of a sudden, it's just Yuri, the only one left on his team to try and make a tremendous effort. He'll find Instinct. Sparkins, though, half time on the plant as he's got to rotate down, low HP with the MX4. It's certainly a powerful weapon. No Alda, no 416. PG Tip swap into the post plant. They have plenty of intel left, or rather, they don't have any intel left. All the drones are gone. They're going to be completely blindsided. Yuri has to open the hatch, but now with that open, it's a perfect read as PG Tips would be able to deny him by any sense. 24 seconds. The time gets lower and lower, and Yuri, he'll try his best around the corner, but the R4C rips him to shreds. PG Tips, yet another round. They'll go 6-1. Match point.
This is a very painful position to find yourself in if you're backing AYB. You know their backs are well and truly on the wall. And well, call out is made. They're asking for attack pause, but we need a reason for that one. Again, us and the caster booth. We're not admins. We have no influence. So match point now, series point, and ultimately it is going to be a very critical moment. If AYB make a single mistake now, they're going home, and PG Tips will be facing Paragon in tomorrow's matchup. This is going to be a tricky one to come back from, and I think this series might be done already.
I hate to be the one who says it's over before it really is, but the way that we're seeing this go down, it just kind of makes you think. It's 6-1. AYB, they didn't get the 3-3 half that I had suggested, or the 4-2, which on the first split would have been good for them. They got 1-5, which is quite the disadvantage to be staring down for Consulate. That is, I would say, kind of more of an attacker-favored map. It's fairly neutral, but the rappel angles give you so much benefit when we're talking the first and second floor sites. I think PG Tips kind of navigated that well in that they stuck away from CEO, a bomb site that doesn't really get played much anymore. Instead, they played more sites that were closer to the basement, a lot of garage, a lot of split, and even throwing lobby in a few times here. A change in what we've seen so far. In terms of the basement strategies, we'll have a vertical extension Ulfrin. He tries to go for the spawn peak. If he had died there, I honestly, I wouldn't know what to say, because Ulfrin, in the previous round, we said that he has to start contributing, right? And he walked into a Claymore. For him to die in an attempted spawn peak, only getting barely any damage onto rep, that would have just been, I mean, overboard.
I'm just looking at this, and I'm trying to be the optimist for the side of AYB, but the more I run it through my mind, I just can't see a way they can claw this one back, and I'm always, to my own detriment, the guy that said it's never over till it's over. I believe Siege can truly come down to the wire, but AYB in the deep water now, they're truly swimming with sharks, and there is blood in the water, and PG Tips can certainly sense it. They're looking to go for the kill now, and 2 minutes remain. The wall's been opened up, and pressure applied directly to the side. The same level of verticality opened up by the side of AYB, but we saw how that got read into last time. Textrolo was very clinical, and Vapor's the first to fall. Make that a second one as Ulfrin goes next to Lexaro. And this is just going to be an absolutely brutal matchup. Sparkins trading shots to the behind of White Van. Choco in such a key position now. He needs to play this position with his life. He gets rid of that Gemini replicator, but so much information in his position. The yellow and the red marks are there for him, but can he act upon them? Utility tossing towards him, stuck in that rotation, clears the distance. He's got a punch hole or some bullet holes to work with, but the cover they provide isn't a whole lot of. He taps away, and ho-ho! By Frenzy, a great shot there! Tiger gets one of his own on the spot. Sparkins and AYB showing some life now. It's now going to be a 3 versus 3. We're closing out that 1 minute mark. The fuse has been dropped and isolated, and Yuri comes back down to the objective to hold the line. This could be AYB showing they've got some life and fight left in their spirits. We hit that minute mark now.
Rejuvenation in the 8th round of our decider map. Rep, low HP. He's got a frag grenade in pocket. Fire goes down. Instinct, knowing that he can't get too hasty here, will shut down the attempt for Mira to flank down from the yellow stairs. 45 seconds. Plenty of utility. The diffuser recovered now by Textralo. He's got one remaining lifeline concussion, one that he could use to potentially grasp some intel. Choco has rotated to play close at Sandwich. There's no drone on this position, and again, another situation where there aren't many remaining drones in total. Instinct will send out plenty of his crossbow utility, trying to deny positions and remove some sight lines using the smoke canister. The final breath of utility comes from the crossbow as he tries to deny the angles. The time it's going to come so low, though, and all of the bullets come through the guns, go alive. AYB, they hang on, finally gasping for air. And one more round, they will definitely hang on, but it's still so close to victory for PG Tips, who are seeing their date with Destiny come so close.
This for right now is just survival mode. It is fight or flight instincts for AYB. They've got to take gambles now. They just find themselves on these horrific pressure situations, but they come up big there and give themselves an extra fighting chance. Console office we go to, and again, we mentioned the verticality of the repel availability that gives the attackers that inherent advantage on this site. Can be a nightmare to deal with. Hobana getting 6-pick 2, and I believe this site's been read out to perfection by the side of PG Tips. They have those X-Kairos pellets that give them an opening inside of meeting if they push free a printer. And it looks like there's going to be a good read on it in play again. And I'm really loving seeing all of this use of this Dutch operator. Grenades and infinite, well, technically speaking, infinite information gain with that Gemini replicator has been used by both teams to great avail. So I hope to see more of her inside of competitive play.
Yuri on the dock is something that definitely piques my interest here as far as, you know, why he would play dock. The first thing that I would think of is to support like a yellow hold, to just have your Jaeger sit there. Sometimes frag grenades can get a little bit too close for comfort, and so you have your dock kind of linger around to sort of provide you, I guess, like a flak jacket. You know, you shoot a stem in, and when the frag grenade rolls on through, you aren't so damaged by it, and you can kind of bounce back and forth and hold yellow for a little bit longer. I'm not in support of Thygr spawn peeking, though. He does not need to. It's not going to help. If he dies, I mean, that could be the mistake to cost them this game.
I think it was definitely a thought that went through his head, and, well, here it is, and, well, you called it, and, well, Textrolo delivers. Bye-bye, Thygr. He's off the board early. This is a massive blow for AYB. He was perhaps trying to be aggressive to give himself the early advantage. And now, 5 versus 4 in favor of PG Tips, and at this point they can play passive and patient. They can just take their time, systematically pick apart every stronghold established by AYB. This could be a very difficult round.
With your top frag gone, the focus is going to change to Ulfrin. He has to step up. I mean, there's no more excuses. It's match point. It's 6-2. If he wants to continue playing in this series and regain their chance to move forward in the rest of playoffs, it's going to have to be his effort. Vapor will tease it close at the window. He's shut down. No idea what the smoke even tried to do there. It won't work. And now wrapping around, Textralo fills Yuri with bullets. No measure of stim pistol is going to stop that from happening. But here goes Ulfrin. He'll go huge as he charges up from the yellow stairs, finding his impact, obliterating Textralo and rep, but it's shut down now by instinct. Chaco in the 1-on-3 to try and keep his team's efforts still inside of Consulate. 100 HP, he's got impacts, he could theoretically deny the plant, but the drone work is good for PG Tips. They're gonna know where this final player is. The top of the yellow stairs, closing in, charging through the angle. Frenzy, he's tagged up, and now Chaco, he's got to bounce between them. Impact sent on through. Desperation move as he tries to fend off the offense. It's the pressure he recognizes with every passing second. It gets more and more mounting. Smoke canisters cut off the cross angles as he charges on forward. He's got to fight so many opponents at once, and that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a 2-1 victory. The comeback story for PG Tips.
Absolutely superb demonstration here on Consulate. You've just got a feel for AYB. They couldn't piece it all together on their last 2 maps. A great showing on Clubhouse, but after that it fell away. And a massive credit to PG Tips. Absolutely phenomenal performance.
I mean, that was just a real showstopper there. It was fast maps across the way, but the emotions, the pressure and the hopes for each of these teams and all of their players, they were rising high. But for AYB, who started so well, they looked incredible on Clubhouse, completely shut PG Tips out of the game. There was just something that switched on after the 9 rounds of that first map that just, it was lights out for PG Tips. And I think they deserve this without a shadow of a doubt.
Couldn't agree more, and that means they're going to be moving on to face Paragon tomorrow. Paragon, a very strong roster, so that's going to be an interesting matchup, and both teams playing very close, matchups. Paragon went to another 3-map matchup yesterday, so these teams have definitely got their marathon running legs ready to go. Tomorrow will be an interesting one. So, once again, we shall welcome back our wonderful host, CC. He shall appear in the ether for us. There he is.
I have been summoned once again, and we've seen a great deal of gameplay so far. We saw so much happen over the course of 3 maps. But concluding thoughts before we wrap up everything that we saw on Consulate more specifically, there's just one thing I have to highlight, and yet again it's got to do with initial kills. That's something I talk about a lot. I discuss it, statistics regarding that, and yet again I shall talk about it. So in this case, we saw a total of 9 rounds being played. Out of those 9 rounds, in only one of them, there was the case that the team which got the initial kill did not get the win. So essentially, in 90%, oops, yeah, in 90% of the cases, the team that got the opening kill, irrespective of which team it was, whether it was AYB or PG Tips, they ended up winning the round. And yet again, all three of us, we've talked about how initial kills are important. It's bread and butter. It's quite staple. But I think it's just something we have to talk about. That and we have to mention that on a large scale map such as Conslet, on a map where you need map control both as an attacker and as a roamer, where there are key checkpoints, staircases that you need to have under your team's control in order to execute onto the site, or as a defender keep the attackers off of it. And that's where, in my eyes, the initial kills, they just play such a huge factor. What are your thoughts about that, Whippet?
It's an interesting story when it comes to the opening kills. I mean, I think in terms of players that stood up in just the kill department, oh my god, I forgot. The Malusi. Oh my god, the name has slipped my mind. This is, the moment the game ends, this always happens to me. Oh no. Oh no. I've actually done myself dirty here. I've actually forgotten the one point I wanted to bring up here. Maybe come back to me. I might remember it. I might remember it.
All right. You may not need the RAM stick, but you surely need an upgraded processor for that for more memory. It seems like, but. But okay, we'll talk about something else. We can come back to it. Stick, I also want to mention a little bit of strategy going forward, because now, as Vipit already said, that PG Tips, they're going to face against Paragon on Clubhouse, and if my memory serves me correct, Paragon have had a few good games on Clubhouse as far as I can remember. But for the side of PG Tips, they got destroyed. They got thrashed. There's no sugarcoating that. They got demolished. So are there any strategic changes outside of the regular win your 1v1s and keep map control as a defender? Is there anything else you can recommend to the players of PG Tips in order for them to improve, or any criticism that you have?
I honestly, it just felt like they kind of lost some of the fundamentals and didn't adapt fast enough. All of the attacks that were demonstrated by AYB were like default stuff that you would expect to see in every single match. Split takes, dirt kitchen hatch takes, nothing, incredibly complex. It was just what we expect to see on the map, and they weren't able to shut it down. I think they could play more effectively, maybe incorporating I think more of a roam, but it felt like their roam was either all or nothing. And Clubhouse is a map that can be very difficult to roam on. Unfortunately, sometimes you just have to win those gunfights. You have to know, you have to be prepared for the timing of when to peek. That was an issue we saw a little bit from PG Tips. And I think there's a lot of film to go back on that can show them how to fix the Clubhouse. It wasn't, fluke rounds where it came down to one-on-ones. You can't really analyze that. You just have to win. No, there were clear signs, clear weaknesses, and I think there's a lot of film that you can look back on for this one.
Certainly so, and Whip It, okay, it doesn't matter, we can skip over the Melusi, but yeah, wrapping things up, are there any final words, anything in conclusion you want to talk about, either for AYB, their future, now that, unfortunately they're out of the tournament, and for PG Tips as well, playing against Paragon tomorrow? Is there anything you'd like to say?
Well, I believe for AYB, I'm pretty certain Vapor's holding together a roster, so I mean, there'll be some of those names we'll be seeing again next season. Hopefully, fingers crossed, they can keep everything stuck together. But when it looks for PG Tips, they're moving up against Paragon. Both these teams have went the distance with their opposition in both their previous matchups, and again, both teams both teams went to Consulate as their final decider. So there's lots of tape, lots of comparable things to look at between these teams. I think Paragon are going to be a very difficult thing to break down for PG Tips. The structure they bring is very balanced between falling back, playing passive, and hyper-aggressive moments. And it's really going to be an interesting matchup to see two different teams stylistically clash head-on, especially when you have 3 maps to go to. And I think it's going to be a very long matchup. I think it'll be another 3-mapper. I think we're in store for that one.
Okay, well, yeah, you've made your predictions, and for you, Stick, this has been your European debut day. So, what have your thoughts been so far, looking at this best of 3 in of itself, and overall looking at things from a more grand perspective? What have you seen and witnessed?
Well, even coming into this game where there was some question of, whether we were going to have a little bit more fun or if it was going to be kind of serious, there were a lot of moments where I was just on the tip of my seat because there was, close clutches. I mean, what even happened in some of those rounds where it looked like the Jaeger specifically was just like, he could not be beat. You put him in a clutch and he was going to win. He was going to put your team over the line. You don't always get to have matches like that where it's a screamer and you know that by the end of it, your voice is going to be gone. That's what we had today. And after this best of 3, I'm definitely looking forward to some more ECS casting in the future.
Certainly so, and speaking of ECS streams in the future, well, we'll be wrapping up things for today. This has been the best of 3 of AYB Esports up against PG Tips, the first game of Stage 2. We'll return tomorrow at the same time, 7:30 p.m. CET, for our second game of Stage 2, which is of course going to be Paragon up against PG Tips. Till then, thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for the entire production team behind the scenes as well, Grissom and Dan, and of course the both of you for joining everyone. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Till then, bye guys.